Hi guys, I'm Brooke and this is Pippa and we travel full-time out of my Honda CRV. If you guys haven't seen us already and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, like this video, share it with a friend. We really appreciate your support, but we're just gonna jump right into it today and talk about how I power everything while living and traveling in my car full-time. One of the biggest questions I get is what brand of power station do you use? Do you have a preference? What size, etc.? And I'm here to answer all of those questions for you today. I totally and completely understand that getting a power station is a big financial commitment. These things are not inexpensive by any means. They are a big investment into your car camping, car travel, etc. And they can really make a difference with what you can do while you're on the road, depending on what kind of luxury you want. But at the same time, I will say, I'll start right from the beginning. I started with one of the cheapest options that I could get, and that was the Jackery 160. I purchased this back in May of 2021 because I only had a couple $100s in my budget to spend when I first moved into the car, but I knew I needed something that could charge my phone, my laptop, my Kindle, all of my other little essentials. But I didn't have a solar panel when I first started, and I knew I needed to be able to just charge it off of my 12-volt plug-in in my car. And so I decided to go with Jackery because that's what was really popular at the time. Now, obviously, over a year later, there are tons of companies who have power stations, but I just went with Jackery because I had seen it the most and it was in my price range at the time. So I got the smallest one. It's the 160. I'm pretty sure from the research I've done, it's being discontinued at this moment. The closest comparable one now is the 240, and I'll explain why I think that's actually a better option than the one that I have currently. But I will go into the 160 and just explain why I chose it at the beginning and how it's lasted me this far. The 160 was my only source of power for the entire first 10 months I was on the road. So I know you guys have seen my channel grow. The people who have stuck by me on TikTok especially have seen how things have grown, and I've gotten sponsorships and I've been gifted things. But the first 10 months of me being on the road, I had to keep everything pretty streamlined to my budget. The thing I liked most about this power station was that it's super small and it's super lightweight. I carry this thing to this day around with me everywhere. So the Jackery 160 does have an AC port, which is great, and it also has 2 USB ports and a USB-C port. I was able to charge my phones, my Kindle, my vacuum. I was able to even straighten my hair. I have my flat iron that I can actually use with this small of a Jackery linked in my Amazon, but I did actually just get it at Walmart. It's a really simple Revlon one that I can use on low, so I can still do my hair in the car and touch it up as I need to. I could also plug my laptop into it and charge my laptop. I have an old 2014 or 2015 MacBook Pro. It would completely take the Jackery to zero just trying to charge my laptop, about 50%, just so you know. It wasn't a great sustainable option, but if I did need to log on to my laptop at any point just for, business stuff or something that I couldn't do on my phone, I could make it work with the Jackery. And then obviously those USB ports and everything charged all the little things in my car, like I said. So it has lasted me and been great this entire time. It charges super fast while I'm driving. It really only takes an hour or two of charging while I'm traveling to get it all the way to 100%. I really didn't need to upgrade to much else. I feel like this is a great starter point, and it really did last me the majority of the time that I've been on the road just fine. Only in recent months, when I've started to upgrade things and think about the future of what I'm going to upgrade to, I have started to make some changes with how I do my power. But if you are needing a really basic power station, this is something you can go with. I know a lot of brands also make similar wattage ones. Like I said, I don't believe people make ones that are this small anymore with this many outlets, but Jackery does have the 240, which I have linked in my Amazon favorites. And the one thing I do really like about the 240 is that it does have the 12-volt hole that you can plug in a cooler or a fridge or anything else that takes that 12-volt plug. If I could go back and do things over again, I would have spent at the time the extra like $50 to have that 12-volt plug in case I did want to run something off of it that did require that 12-volt hole. But at the same time, this has lasted me forever. I still use it all the time. I carry it around with me everywhere I go. So the nice part about it being so small is that if I'm outside sitting and I need to charge my phone, or if I need to keep something plugged in while I'm working outside, I can do all of that as I'm kind of walking around because it's so small. I can move it around so easily. Even now that I have the solar panel, it really only takes a couple hours for it to charge even off of my solar panel, especially over the winter when I was in the desert and I had full sun all the time. It charged super quickly and it was a really great option. I don't even think you would need a 100-watt solar panel to be able to charge this to full very quickly. So I think this is a great budget option if you are just starting out. You just need something so you don't wake up to a dead battery in the morning by trying to charge everything off of your car battery. I think this is a great option. It has all of the things that you need. It even has that one AC port. Obviously with this, you are not going to be able to charge a lot of devices for a long period of time, to obviously lose charge very quickly if you're using it for high wattage items. Also, because it is a 160, I couldn't run really anything else on it other than that straightener on low on my laptop really charging it. I couldn't plug in any kind of electric skillet. I couldn't plug in any really fans that weren't USB fans, and everything like that. So there are downsides to not having that wattage, but at the same time I wasn't using a lot of those items. My stove was propane. I could heat up water that way. My fans, I just chose the USB ones, so I didn't have to plug it into the AC port. If you don't know as well, Jackery AC ports, when you turn them on these small ones, do make a pretty loud noise, so you can hear it all the time when you're running. I'll play it for you. And while that might seem very small, especially if you're running it overnight like that or something, it does really kind of get annoying. I don't prefer to have a lot of that really monotonous sound in the background. It kind of gets to me. I know other people find it very soothing, but it doesn't work for me, so it really drove me up a wall, especially when I was running my refrigerator off of it, because it was a 12-volt fridge. I had the adapter. I could run my fridge off of this, but like I said, it would really only run it overnight and it would be dead in the morning, and I'd have to immediately get my solar panel out to start to recharge it. So it wasn't the greatest option. It was a very labor-intensive dance I had to do all the time to make sure it was constantly charging so my fridge could constantly stay cool, but I did do it for a while. Now we're gonna lead into my next product that I have. I upgraded in March of this year to a Bluetti. It's the EB70 model, so it has 700 watts versus the 160 watts that I have been using with my Jackery. I will make a full disclaimer, this wasn't a partnership that I did with TikTok. I am not in a partnership with them to post about it on this video. This is not sponsored, but I am an affiliate with them because I've worked with them before, but that doesn't mean that I haven't been trying it out for the last almost 5 months that I've had the Bluetti, and I've never really mentioned it on YouTube until I was very sure that I wanted to do this breakdown between them. So just because I've worked with them in the past doesn't mean I'm not going to give you all of the information about it, but at the same time, it is a great product. I'm not gonna lie, having the extra power this whole time has been such a game changer. So I would say if you do have a budget to have a bigger power station in your vehicle, I would totally go for it. If you know your needs are going to be higher, like that you have to be on a laptop a lot more, or you have appliances and things like that that you want to bring, you can run a toaster off the Bluetti. I have that nostalgia little griddle that I use with it now. I actually can run my hair dryer on low with it. I use it all the time to be able to get ready in the car and things like that. So the extra power does outweigh some of the cons with it, but I will run you through some of the issues that I have had with the Bluetti that I haven't run into with the Jackery. So one of the things is obviously size. It is much larger than the Jackery is, and it is a lot lot heavier, and so there's only a few places I can actually keep it in the car. I can't really walk around with it as easily. I have to kind of keep it stored in a way a lot of the time, even if things are plugged into it constantly. I have to make sure that I have the space for it, and to make sure that if I am carrying it around, it is just a little bit more cumbersome. It's not something you just can pull out, I guess, at this point for me. It does take a very, very, very long time to recharge. That's to be expected because it has a lot more power, but when I was so used to recharging my little Jackery all the time, the Bluetti does take like all day and sometimes multiple days, especially if I'm parked and I'm just charging off of solar power. Even if I have full sun, it sometimes takes a full 2 days to charge up from zero. If I let it die completely, it takes so long to recharge. So that kind of deters me from using it for a lot of major appliances like that griddle, like my hair dryer, things like that, because I know it's going to deplete the charge so fast because it has such a high wattage that I don't like the recharge time. Now, am I saying that that should deter you? No. But at the same time, I don't have a huge solar setup. I only have 100-watt solar panel that I use to charge both of my devices. And even when I'm driving, the Bluetti does take a little bit more time. Another con is that the plug, for some reason, like the input, doesn't stay in all the time. Almost feels like the hole is almost too large for the cord that actually came with it, and it will wiggle its way out of place, especially when I'm driving. So I'll have driven 2 or 3 hours thinking the Bluetti is charging and it is not charged at all. It's something that I have to maintenance. I don't know if it's just this model that I have, but I will say the plug issue is like mildly annoying when that happens. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does. When it does happen, it's always like when I need it, of course. But like I said, this is an honest review. This isn't sponsored or anything like that, so I feel like I can be honest with you guys. Now I will say, I'm gonna go back into the positives. I love that it has that 12-volt hole, so I can keep my fridge plugged into it all the time when I'm traveling with my fridge. My fridge doesn't pull a ton of watts, so if you haven't gone back and watched my fridge video, I have all the information on the fridge that I have. It was also a gifted product at the time, but it does keep my fridge going. I can keep my fridge running off of it for a good couple days before I need to recharge the Bluetti, but most of the time when I have my fridge, I have the solar panel plugged in all the time. It actually does charge my devices faster, and so I can tell that when I have my phone plugged into it or something like that, it charges much faster than when I have it plugged into the Jackery. I'm not sure if that's the difference in wattage or just how much power is behind it, but it does charge my devices faster, so I feel like I don't need to constantly have things plugged into it. And the fact that I just have the option to power bigger items, like I feel like I do have a little more luxury of being able to work with my laptop and keep it plugged in while I'm working, instead of with the Jackery. I just was kind of having to watch that percentage go down all the time, or if I really do want to make, you know, waffles or something in the morning with my little griddle, I don't have to decide whether or not to do those things. I can have a little bit more of a luxury experience on the road, which I'm never going to complain about, because after living the very simple version of life on the road for so long, I am okay with having luxuries. I will say, now that I have been using both for the last 5 months or so, I will keep both and continue to use both. I don't think either of them are a waste. I think both of them serve their purpose, but I will say I do use the Bluetti for more fixed items, so like my fridge or things that stay plugged into it all the time, and then I use my Jackery for smaller items like my phone and things like that, so I can walk around with it, or I can move it around the car to wherever I need it. So if I'm sitting up front and watching TV, I can keep my phone plugged in, but when I go to bed at night, I can keep it up on that little nightstand and keep everything plugged in overnight, so I can make sure everything is charged and ready for the morning, whereas the Bluetti stays in the spot that I have it in the car all the time. Ultimately, I believe it is up to you to do the rest of your research and kind of decide what size you need for your power needs and things like that. I will say, if you are wanting more luxury on the road, you're going to need a bigger power bank. Doing everything off of a 160 wattage power bank was very difficult for the time that I did it, but obviously it was better than running down my car battery. But if you know that you want to travel with some extra items, or maybe you have a CPAP machine, or you have something that you need to be charging all of the time, like a fridge and things like that, I would definitely go for the larger battery bank, because that investment is always going to pay off if you are using items like that all the time, instead of having to struggle with it with a power bank that barely covers your power needs. One last thing I want to mention is that you should be careful if you are charging things just off of your car and you don't have an external like solar panel or something. A lot of cars do not turn off the 12-volt charger even after you turn off your car for the night. I have multiple friends who have power banks of any brand, and when they turn their car off at night, it will continue to charge from the battery to the power bank, and they will wake up to a dead vehicle. Now, luckily, my Honda CRV does not do that, but I know a lot of vehicles, especially like the little Ford Transit Connects and Ford vehicles, they will continue to charge things even after you've stopped driving. So I would just be very wary of that, so you don't constantly wake up to a dead car battery, which is not a fun time for anybody. So I hope this helps give a little more look into what I use my power station for and everything like that, and maybe will help you decide for your needs. But at the end of the day, you know what you like to use all of the time, and I would just say to give a quick look at those wattages. That is always information you can see on the packaging of any item, or it's a quick Google search. Google the wattages of the things that you use the most and that you would want to take with you, and see what kind of power needs you would have. I know it's a lot of math, I know it seems very complicated, but the more you do it, the better. And obviously look at your budget and just see what you want to do with that. I do have a discount code through Bluetti, and I do have a link for them. I will leave it down below, and like I said, I linked the Jackery in my Amazon favorites, so you guys can see that as well. And I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.